Hello and welcome to the lobby, GameSpot's video game chat show every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific right here on GameSpot.com. A little bit late today, apologies for that. We had some technical difficulties, nothing to do with any other website that's in this building at all. But we're here. We're good. And we're here to talk about video games. Video games.
I love them.
Actual video games. It was good to talk about The Division last week. We're starting to get access to games 2016, and they're starting to come out as well. The Witness, I played a bunch of it today. Looking forward to talking to you, Mike, about it, who reviewed it for GameSpot.com in a little bit. We're also going to talk to you about Far Cry Primal, which you've played a couple of hours of?
Yeah, 4 hours.
4 hours? Okay, that's pretty sweet. And also, we're going to talk about a bunch of other sort of mini bits of news that happened. KJ Inafune, a game got delayed. Who knew? And Five Nights at Freddy's Party has also been pulled off of Steam. So lots to talk about this week. Thank you so much for joining us on GameSpot.com or twitch.tv/GameSpot. I'll be checking in on the chat as well. So if you have any questions at all about any of the topics we have on today's show, please feel free to say them to me at Danny O'Dwyer on both of those chats. All right. First of all, gentlemen, we talked about The Division last week. We had a great old little chinwag about how that game's turning out and the beta, which is starting imminently as well. But an interesting thing happened. We went to the statistics meeting on a Monday morning, as we do here at GameSpot, and for some reason, views on Ghost Recon Wildlands had just spiked last week. It got us asking the question: was the gameplay that we were sort of hoping for The Division, the sort of this partying up, open world, sprawling sort of, find your own adventure experience, was that actually more of what's going on in Ghost Recon Wildlands than in the Division? So we saw Wildlands at E3 last year. I'm kind of just interested in your guys' perspective on what Wildlands is, because a lot of this has to do with perception. What is the game? Peter, to you, what do you think Ghost Recon Wildlands is, and what do you think the Division is? Is it hard for you to devise which is which? Because both are Ubisoft games, both are third-person shooters. What in your head, gameplay-wise, how do they seem different at this stage?
It's hard for me to offer too much because I haven't really thought about that game a lot since E3.
Right.
But reading a bit about it before the show this morning, I mean, it sounds like it's a much more... It's a game that focuses on the tactical aspect of teamwork and, in solving an issue. And from what I understand about the Division, that's not so much the case. There obviously is some tactical considerations at hand, but it's also... I don't know how to characterize it, but it sounds like there is maybe more substance to the tactical side of a game.
Right.
Like Wildlands.
Yeah, because what we've sort of seen from the Division since they've been showing a lot of gameplay is that it's quite wave based. It seems like you're
it's a cover shooter.
We're looking at Wildlands here, which is a game set in Bolivia. You were sort of a set of U.S. undercover agents, as the ghosts tend to be, who are going in to kill a bunch of cartels. Ubisoft Paris are making this, who did the old generation versions of Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. I think that was around the same time that they acquired Red Storm, who made the proper GRAW experiences, but they worked on that sort of stuff. Red Storm aren't involved in this. They're actually working with Ubisoft Massive on the Division. But yeah, as we're seeing from the gameplay here, it seems to be, and you have to be super careful here because this is all this is representative of the final product, which has gotten Ubisoft into trouble with Watch Dogs, and you could say the Division sort of feels a little bit different as well. But what we have learned from it is that you can go in all guns blazing, you can use sniper rifles, you can use stealth, you can level up your character, there's an element of customization. There's stuff like friendly or hostile NPCs in the world that you can get into conversations with, and apparently that's going to change your stake within the wider world. And then the other thing, and this is sort of, I feel like a lot of games are trying to throw their hat in on the co-op side of things. And then there are folks like me who are loners who prefer to play games on my own. I love Fallout and The Witcher, Metal Gear Solid, and they're games that you play on your own. This game you can play on your own. The Division, apparently, you can also play on your own. But all we ever see in these games when they're showing them off, and we saw with Wildlands when they showed it at E3, and we've seen it with every Division piece of gameplay as well, is co-op experiences. Why do you think that is, Mike? Are you interested in co-op games? Does that turn you off, or does it actually make it more interesting? Because I guess there's big money in games like Destiny, right?
Yeah, it's not my preferred way to play. Speaking of co-op, I also prefer single-player experiences, but I really do like when things can take co-op and make it something special, like Left 4 Dead, or I liked Destiny's co-op features, but that's what the thing about Wildlands seems like. I'm hoping it's what Pete said. It's more of the tactical side of things. You can go in, the trailer showed going in with the Jeep and everybody just firing off rounds, but then the stealthy one was kind of just having a sniper train on the main guy they were trying to extract and everybody going in stealthily. But what I think they might end up going for, and what it appears they're going to go for, is more of a cooperative third-person Far Cry.
Right.
Because Far Cry itself, the way they describe the open meta world of Wildlands is kind of more. They said there would be like outposts, from what I believe. This might have changed since E3, but it'd be more, like kind of commanding certain parts of the map and then teaming up with people and then kind of, clearing it out and then finding new missions around the world.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a Ubisoft, the formula, right?
That sounds like the structure they
tried
always
and
kind of
tested,
go with.
yeah.
And I'm hoping they go with like what Pete said, because that was the main draw of Ghost Recon games to me. Is I really like the tactical side of things, and the co-op really worked out with those. I actually really liked Future Soldier. It wasn't my favorite thing, but I thought they nailed, like, especially in the campaign, the co-op campaign, they nailed that kind of teamwork. So I hope that's what they go for, as opposed to the Division, which seems, RPG focused, more of these MMO instances.
And that kind of seems like why people are disappointed as well, a little bit, is because they thought that the Division was going to be a little bit more nuanced that way, but it seems like it's just a cover shooter, like a basic cover shooter.
And the thing that got me excited about the Division was the setting. I mean, the fact that it's in New York City, it's winter. I love snow. A lot of people love snow. And it was dealing with an outbreak that has sort of caused this hysteria. But when you're describing like the laundry list of features that they're going for with Wildlands, I kept thinking to myself, you could apply that list to so many games over the past 5 years, and maybe just take one feature out and switch it with another. I can't get really excited about these games, and maybe that's just me because it's not really my thing. It's not my taste. But I don't know. Like, the Division seems to offer so much more in terms of an interesting world than something like Wildlands. I mean, is the functional gameplay aspect of it, the little things it's bringing to the table, that interesting to get back into an experience that on the surface level to me seems so predictable and like other games? Like, what is really differentiating this? Is it just that it's new and that they add in one other feature that maybe the last game like it didn't have? Is that it?
Or is it that it's a co-op experience? The thing about
that's just it. Like, is co-op enough for them to spend millions of dollars making this
I mean,
game?
it was for the crew, right? Like, that was basically a driving game like so many other driving games. I know, right? Like, it tried something, at least with the map side, but like, that's what it was, right? It was open world, and it was co-op.
Yeah.
And that was basic. And you could actually say the same thing about Far Cry 4. Far Cry 4 also big open worlds, bases, all that stuff. Like, that's what Far Cry 3 was. Far Cry 4 also had co-op. Like, did I played crap at a Far Cry 4. Did any of you do co-op in that game at all?
I didn't do co-op.
You didn't? Did you give it a go?
Yeah, because then you could do like the what they call the vertibirds or whatever. Oh, that's like resistance.
Yeah.
I don't know. You could use those little
Vertibirds
gyro
is
choppers.
Fallout.
Yeah, and then you have some person with a grenade launch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting everything mixed up now. You can do like one person with a grenade launcher going over the base, but those were like the cordoned off instances where you could do co-op, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't do that in the whole.
Could you not?
Or
I
could
thought
you?
you could.
Oh, no, you could, but then
there
was like the certain actual, what's his, like, Huck, his missions were only
right.
co-op.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Far Cry 3 had a co-op mode, which was instance. That was
that
like
was
off
more
to
of
the
like
side.
a linear shooter,
Yeah.
which that was kind of a disappointment. But yeah, Far Cry 4, incorporated it pretty well, because I know for a while that's what I was hoping for from a game, was to have open world co-op where it wasn't like sectioned off into its own thing. And Far Cry did that well, but I don't know that it's as enticing as it used to be.
I'm really interested to hear what folks have to think about this, actually, if there's one or the other that they're kind of looking forward to. While I sort of throw that out there, can you release both these games the same year? Because they seem like they're doing similar, even if, like, Peter, what you were saying was the contemporary setting of The Division was definitely something that sets it apart from other games. It's probably one of the most notable differences. The new Ghost Recon game also set in sort of contemporary times. It's not future like Future Soldier,
right,
but it's set, in a sort of a tropical, Bolivia. It's interesting in its own way as well. It looks different. Can you release these two games in the same year, considering they're both essentially third-person co-op shooters coming out of the same company, like different studios, but it's not all that different.
But the thematic things that sort of define the world might speak to a certain demographic, where the Ghost Recon is sort of going for that military feel. So people who actually like that stuff will say, yeah, the Division, fine, but military shit, that's where I'm at.
Like, it's more legit.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with the Division, it's sort of a wider gamut of who can get into it, because it is more like a slice of life, in this sort of fantastical scenario versus a military covert op in Bolivia. I think that really speaks to a certain type of person. Like, I could give a shit about what guns they're using. Like, oh yeah, they actually use that.
Right.
Some people do, and that's cool for them. But I don't think they're going to be the same people who fawn over the Division just because the base gameplay may have similarities.
Yeah.
I think we identify with a lot of games because of the world they present us and the story they tell us, whether it's overt or just suggested, and those games both tell very different stories overall. So I think it's okay. I don't know that it's going to ride or die based on whether the gameplay is similar or different than another game.
Right. A lot of people in the chat saying the same thing. Sparks V, Red Animator, Wildlands delayed to spring of 2017.
Oh, sure. I mean, we haven't heard about the game since E3. Like, knowing Ubisoft and how they tend to market these things, like, that says something, I mean, even if it's just that they can't afford to, maybe back to your point, they can't afford to, confuse the market with too much advertising around different games or too much different, preview events. Not so much the games are competing because they're in the same similar genre, but because it's just the audience only has time for so many games.
Yeah,
that might just be it.
And we're like looking at this very much as a snapshot of what's what we know right now at the end of January 2016. Like, this conversation a month ago would have been so different. This conversation 6 months ago would have been different. So I guess last question on this, I kind of want to gauge interest in your guys. If you had to pick one of these games right now, because this is kind of something I want to revisit maybe in the future, which one are you more interested in, and for what reason? Mike, first of all.
Oh, yeah. Ever since the E3 last year, I've been really interested in Wildlands. I think that would have to be my pick, although we don't know a ton about it. But if they do what they appeared to do in E3 with that tactical bent and that really more confined, like, 4-person kind of gameplay, as opposed to, The Division, which needs more MMO-ish, I definitely have to pick Wildlands.
What about yourself, Pete?
For The Division, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, I like the setting and the themes in the story, but I also like kind of the openness where people can cooperate and turn on each other if they want. Like, I think that'll create some interesting dynamics when it comes to a group trying to succeed or survive.
Hopefully we won't have to pick from these games. Hopefully both will come out with a little bit of space around them, and they'll both be interesting in their own ways. But right now, if I had to pick, probably because I'm a massive Ghost Recon fan and I enjoy the sort of being out in like open, I guess not the city stuff is interesting, but I enjoy being out in the wilderness a little bit.
You're a nature boy.
I'm a nature boy. I play games like The Long Dark, and I go off and fall out and rummage in bushes when people aren't looking, and that's what I want to do in Bolivia. Finally, let's go to La Paz and act like a crazy, weird U.S. Marine shooting up cartel people. I don't know. It seems more interesting because of the videos they've shown. And that's kind of what I'm worried about, is that The Division more have seen, it's like, oh, the gloss is coming off a little bit.
If they can do something interesting with Bolivia, that's kind of cool. And like, I know the team went there for a few weeks to talk to locals and figure stuff out. To the extent, I don't know, but I think if they can tell an interesting story, I hate to keep beating that drum, but that can actually make me really interested in that game, because, I mean, I like Metal Gear, which has a lot of military-esque stuff going on, but I don't really like military stuff. And why is that? Because of, the other stuff surrounding it.
Yeah, devil's in the detail. I guess we'll find out soon enough. Let us know what you think. What are you looking forward to more, if you had to pick? Thankfully, you don't. But The Division, Ghost Recon Wildlands, let us know in the comments below which one you're looking forward to, which one you hope comes out in 2016. All right. Well, Ubisoft are not shy on making video games. Of course, made a bunch of games last year. As people in the chat were saying, we had The Crew, Syndicate. What else came last year?
Rainbow Six Siege.
Rainbow Six Siege came out on the heels of that. We've also they've got a game coming out pretty soon in Far Cry Primal. We're going to talk to you a little bit about that in just a second. But first of all, I want to gauge Peter on a little story. So we just found out that Keiji Inafune's Kickstarter from back in the summer of, what was it, 2013, I think at this stage?
2012.
2012 maybe? Was originally was going to come out in April of last year. Its release date was then moved forward to mid-September, then to February 9th, and we've just found out that it's been delayed again to earliest spring 2016 is what they're saying. You've talked to the dude. You have sort of eyes on this project from the start. What was your immediate reaction upon hearing that? Because this has been a really troubled project, it seems, for a while.
Yeah, and Keiji Inafune knows it, and he gets a lot of that stuff, at least based on talking to him. Like, he feels bad because people are upset, but he also feels bad because they can't relate to what he is going through as someone who's making the game, who was trying to do something that was, an homage to, he wouldn't agree with this, but really it's like an homage to Mega Man, even if it's not like Mega Man in many ways. But like, my first reaction was, man, I feel so bad for the guy, because one, again, it's another delay. Two, it's something like matchmaking, but online multiplayer that's delaying it.
Which you would imagine is something that not a lot of people would have as their like we're literally just talking about co-op. Like, do people care? We
figured out these hurdles as an industry, and I don't know that people really care. And for him to have to say, or at least be the face behind, this is the reason you're not getting the game because we can't figure out matchmaking. It's just, it's for a guy like him who is all about design, these sort of like cold game features, I can only imagine like he gives a fuck about. Like he really doesn't care. And he just wants to get the game out there and make the fans happy. And he said like, for all the shit I'm taking now, I know once the game comes out, people's reaction to the game will be what I actually care about, not all this stuff.
They went for $900,000 on the Kickstarter. Of course, it reached almost 4 million, 3,845,000 and a little bit of change. What do you think this says again about Kickstarter? There have been a couple of notable Kickstarter projects did not really they either didn't come out in the shape that people were expecting them to be. Do you think something like this, when it's another big game and people are looking at things like Shenmue last year, like do you think that there is less confidence or more confidence in the Kickstarter process, especially when a big developer like this?
It seems to me the general consensus is that there's less confidence among the backing audience. But if you look at something like Money Number 9, there was a lot of hubris when they were sort of like making stretch goals. And like this game could have just been a simple single player experience. And instead it kind of blew up into like, oh, it's going to be on every platform. It's going to have matchmaking and all this bullshit.
Was that because that was the problem, right? Because it kind of got too much money.
Yes. Yeah, you could say that, and that's fair. And what do you do when more people back your project? You got to kind of like, put that money somewhere. And it just, I think the lesson learned here is don't go too big unless absolutely necessary. And frankly, I don't think that Kickstarter people running campaigns need to offer more features for more money. If they offer something that's a base level, this is what you're, giving us money to make, and people want to keep giving them money to do it, okay. But don't think that you have to answer for every like $1,000 or $10,000 with a new thing that's not really going to make a difference, because your core idea is what people are investing in.
Yeah,
not fucking like sprinkles of new shit on top.
Yeah. Coffee Jesus in the chat saying rather the game be good and late than released before it's right. I think that's probably not a lot of people would be as nice as that. We anticipate games. We look forward to games coming out. Inafune is working on a bunch of other projects at the moment. What do you think this says? Do you then start to worry about projects like Recore, for instance, or any of the other things that the pots he's currently stirring?
If you look back to when Keiji Inafune started Mighty Number 9, I mean, he made this Kickstarter campaign. He founded his own company in concept. He started working with Intercreates, the team that he's worked with in the past, but has now sort of charged them with making this multi-platform game with all these new features, a thing that they are not experienced with. So he had a lot going on by the time this project started, and was seeing a lot of that through. I don't worry about Recore so much. One, because it's working with a larger publisher, Microsoft, from the start. Two, Armature Studios is working on it as well, and that is a team that is filled with competent devs in context to what they're making. They've worked on big projects before, like Metroid Prime series. It's
not out of their wheelhouse. It's like more comfortable.
To put it succinctly and elegantly, yes.
Peter, thanks so much for letting us know what you think of this.
I'm
obviously, stay there. We need to talk to Mike about Far Cry, but I want your thoughts on that as well, and I want your thoughts as well on what do you think about what's going on with Mighty Number 9. I mean, it seems from us in the press who cover basically any time there's a delay, it obviously is big news for us, and a lot of people like to talk about it. It seems like this is just a bad joke that keeps on, the punchline keeps coming and coming and coming. So if you have any thoughts on this, let us know in the comments. If you've actually backed the game, I'd be really interested to hear what you have to say. Please let us know in the comments below. Keeping an eye on the chat, actually, especially for this one. I got a bunch of questions from people via Twitter beforehand, but if you have any questions about Far Cry Primal, start getting them in there at Danny Dwyer on the Twitch chat or on GameSpot chat. Mike Mahardy,
hey,
you have played the new Far Cry game.
Yeah.
I'm excited because Far Cry is a fun video game series, and I'm excited to hear about the latest Far Cry game. I haven't played a Far Cry game. None of us have since October of 2014. Well, and a new one, I guess, with that pagan man and all that stuff and the helicopters and great fun.
Yeah.
All around great fun.
Ride elephants.
Yeah, exactly. Why do you need any more? Just cut it off. There. Feature list. Ride elephants.
You can go home.
Ride Elephant Simulator. Done. New Far Cry game. They announced it late last year. I want to know, first of all, kind of like the question a lot of people are asking, which is how much of a Ubisoft game is this? Is this very, very, very familiar, or is it actually breaking interesting new ground?
It does. It's very familiar. Definitely, it's the Far Cry structure. You don't have to climb radio towers.
You don't.
No, it's so
That's
they
my
erased,
second question done.
Yeah,
Great.
they erased that kind of tedious part of the games for 3 and 4 especially. But you do. It's the Far Cry structure. But of course, it's back in the Stone Age, 12,000 years ago. It's 10,000 BC. They really. Did I just say that right? 10,000? Yeah, 10,000 BC.
I mean, I'm not going to fact check you.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
No, it is.
Yeah.
There's this thing at the beginning, the very beginning. It like counts back from 2016. But it's the Far Cry structure. But they're doing enough interesting things that
Like
for the 4 hours I
owls.
played.
Like
yeah.
owls attacking people. Jesus.
So in Far Cry 4, you could command that tiger when you go to the Shangri-La, like dreamy sequences. They've taken that and made a whole like progression tree out of the people have seen the Beastmaster abilities, and you can tame new animals, and they're pretty much your co-op companions. You can find a bear, you can ride them, which we did. We just weren't allowed to show.
So that was like tertiary stuff in Far Cry before. How much of this game involves actually having to do how much of the game involves you just working with animals?
Very much working with and against. So it's almost like fighting other humans unless you're near a camp of the other tribes. It's almost entirely you versus like tigers and jaguars and panthers and bears and
Oh my! There you go.
I was waiting for it. Thank you.
Nice.
It's very, very focused on hunting and gathering. The way you upgrade your skills, it's kind of a new skin almost. You have this central village that you return to.
Okay.
Instead of these, like 3 and 4 and 2, were just these outposts where you had armories and you could get supplies and rest and everything and get new missions. This is all mainly focused around your village, which you're upgrading. And in order to get new skills, you have these specialists, these characters you're recruiting out in the wilderness.
Okay.
Saying, hey, I have a safe cave. Come back here. Yeah.
Hey, lone wanderer.
Yeah.
You want to come
There's
back with
candy
me?
and everything.
I'm not going to eat you or have
Yeah.
sex with you, but
What would you lure them in with back then? Like, it wouldn't be candy.
Fucking food, man.
just
There's
dress
raw
food.
meat. There's a dead bear I haven't finished yet.
Look how hard it is to live back then. What type of specialists are these? Because like demolitions,
Yeah.
sniper.
No, one is like communications, and you can set up like satellite relays and stuff. No, I'm kidding. No, there's a shaman who he's the one that you
Drugs.
basically build up all these
Drugs.
huts. Yeah.
in my mind.
And they unlock the new skills. He governs the Beastmaster tree.
Okay.
So you can get new tiers of animals. So you can tame like a wolf at first, like D-Dog kind of thing.
Great.
And then you start off with the owl, which like scouts post. But then you can get a wolf, and then you can get bears and jaguars. But you also get new attacks. Like you scout with your owl. You can later on get an attack where he just like dive bombs someone and pecks their face off.
Right.
And
And you drop grenades as well.
yeah,
I
you can
saw.
drop like beehive.
With the
You
owl.
mean poop?
No, like poop that
Probably.
explodes.
It's very Metal Gear. He's kind of you can scout from far away and then send in your animal to attack, and it's kind of like going stealthily with a bow.
So are they kind of like an extension of your? Because like obviously this is a game without guns, right? So like Samian Souza says, how differently is it to play without a firearm? Are there any like first-person combat mechanics, or are the animals an extension of you?
They're very much an extension of you. You point to certain people and they'll attack them, or you can tell them to go somewhere. Taming them is a big thing, but they're also kind of defense. You have to heal them. But it is very different in terms of combat because you don't have a machine gun or a grenade launcher to fall back on. You have bow and arrow.
Until they mod it on PC.
Yeah,
so
until
boring.
they just make it Far Cry Primal 2026.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a good year.
Yeah. You get a club and
Okay.
spears. So you can either stab with the spears, which is a very direct forward attack, or throw them.
Right.
Which that's almost always a one-hit kill, but you only have 2 of them at first until you upgrade your capacity. So it's a very brutal combat from what I've seen. You're really just smashing people's heads with a club. And then, when there's a lot of moving targets, the bow and arrow is kind of harder to use.
And the loop that you experienced was that same kind of thing, like, okay, there's going to be like a story bit at the start, then you have your little village, and then large open world, and you can kind of go off in any direction you want.
Yeah, you can. They say it's comparable in size to 4. I don't know that I could confirm that from what I saw. It's definitely just as dense. There's a lot of. It still shows animals on the map where you can hunt wolves and where you can hunt jaguars. But it's also, you go back to your village and get a mission from this specialist that you've recruited, and they'll say, go do this. And that progresses the story because there are other tribes that you're fighting. There's like the Udam, which is the cannibals.
Okay.
And there's the Azila, which are all they're called the Flame Walkers. They use fire a lot. The intro sequence to how you meet that tribe is pretty gross, actually. But it's the game overall is really dark, even for 3 and 4. It's really just like kind of brutal and grim, and just this whole tribe uses fire to fight people. If that gives you any indication of like the brutality of like these cutscenes you're seeing.
What is the structure of the village in terms of like society and politics? Like, are there leaders that you have to sort of work with, or is that just sort of like implied and they don't really touch on it?
No, I guess there are people like walking around, and you can make your own dwelling. You're pretty much the leader of the tribe. You're Takar. You're the leader of the. You're rebuilding
are the leader.
You're rebuilding the Wenja tribe, which used to be the one peaceful and like they were like very
Not anymore.
bent on science, if such a thing existed back then. But they were trying to like just gather knowledge, and they weren't too warlike. But you're just rebuilding that, and then there's not very much of a political thing. It's these specialists are in huts. It's upgrade the specialists and unlock more skills. You just upgrade these huts by hunting certain animal skins and gathering certain
it
herbs.
sounds kind of like you're going like in Far Cry 4, when
Yeah.
you're like going into a room
Yeah.
and just. So
Yeah.
to that point, Rev Zylia, man, why don't just people just call themselves Dave on Twitch says since the game is close to early release, only about a couple of months more, how does the game feel rushed at all? So does it feel like a sort of a conversion mod for Far Cry 4, or does it feel like its own thing? Because it's doing a lot of different stuff, so
Yeah.
it should feel different. But does it?
It feels done. It feels like its own thing. It feels polished. It's like I said, people who are expecting another Far Cry will get that. But from the 4 hours I played, I cannot speak to the whole game. I have not played more than 4 hours. From the 4 hours I played, it feels like its own different thing that is worth playing for a little while. But again, it's those games always a big complaint a lot of people have is the second half is just more of the
More of the
first
same.
half.
Yeah.
Could it survive without being called Far Cry Primal? Like, what if it was just called Primal? Like, do you think the game is strong enough to stand on its own without these sort of ties to a thing that people love?
Yeah, I think it could stand on its own, but obviously, like having the Far Cry gives you a glimpse into what you're expecting. It's structurally, yeah, I don't know. It had like I know a lot of people thought it might be like a Blood Dragon size thing at first, but
Yeah.
it's like $60 full size game.
They turned it around real quick. I mean, the perception is sort of like, hey, where did that come from? It's already out in like
Yeah.
a month.
Yeah.
Totally.
I could very well see them having say, okay, here's a team that while 4 is being finished, you're gonna start from the same framework and start working on this, and then we're gonna bring those people over. I don't know what the actual internal things were, but I could very much see them as simultaneous things, if not soon after that started from the same foundation.
Like it's kind of refreshing, like because like the Fallout 4 that was very unique, but like that was kind of cool. It came out of nowhere, but they have done it before with Grow Home. That was a game that Ubisoft obviously much smaller in terms of scale, but that was a game that just appeared out of nowhere. Like literally, they were like, "Hey, it's out, go play it." And it seems like folks are interested in this because it does have those touchstones of the older Far Cry experiences. I guess like you got to wonder how much longer they can do this before it starts becoming a little bit rote. For you, did it? You know, you played 4 hours, was it?
Yeah, 3 hours of the intro sequences and like how they're teaching you everything, and then a little bit open world, and then they jumped us to a point where we had a lot more beasts unlocked, a lot more abilities, and you meet the Azila tribe and you fight them.
Hard to say,
Yeah.
obviously, in that sort of situation. Did it feel? Were you interested to play more? Did it feel like it had like legs? Was the going in and sort of double? What do you call those spears?
Yeah.
Was the double spearing?
Yeah,
was
pincers.
that fun?
It
Gift
feels
that one.
it sold me enough to be more interested than I was before I played it,
Right.
which says something. But again, I'm kind of worried that it won't last past like 5-6 hours when I'm actually in the open world and realize that I could be doing this with machine guns.
Right.
Because I don't know.
I guess time will tell.
Yeah.
We'll find out. Last question. Saxton at Hot Chewbacca on Twitter asks, how much caveman junk is in it?
There's a lot of
See some
caveman.
dong?
Oh, caveman junk.
Yeah.
thought
What's
he
it
meant
think of it?
filler,
Like
like-
trash?
Yeah. How much
caveman
rubbish
junk.
is there?
I didn't see any.
You didn't see any?
There's no one was hanging.
4 out of 10.
Yeah.
4 out of 10.
There's no low hanging
Cut
fruit.
myself off there. Yeah. No, I didn't see any.
It's a shame. DLC. Again, mods. PC mods.
Full review. We'll have specific
Yeah.
count of how many.
Dongspot.com. We got you covered. Mike Mahardy, thank you so much for talking to us about Far Cry Primal. Appreciate your time. Let us know what you think of Far Cry Primal. Are you excited for it? Is it a game that you're looking forward to this year? Are you a fan of the old Far Cry games, or is this one piquing your interest on its own? Let us know in the comments below. They're down there. They're down there. They're down there. You all right? You got a nice little... Oh, look what happens.
Yeah.
We're about to talk about The Witness, and a notepad comes out of nowhere.
I brought a visual accompaniment. I haven't been feeling well. I can't speak too well.
Don't worry about it. It's not because you're not feeling well. That's normal.
Yeah, I just suck at talking. Blowing my cover.
That's not. Oh, no, I had another follow up to that one as well. I just can't help myself.
It's
With
about
you,
caveman
We're just
dog?
having a
No,
good
it's a
chin
blowing.
wag in here. Whatever
About blowing caveman
Irish
dog?
people say.
I know. Yeah, hot coffee mod. It's gonna come out in Far Cry the
Full
Primal
circle
rap exactly.
around the dong.
I actually have also taken photographs, Andy. If you want to have a look at that, I've been I've been playing The Witness this morning, and
That's a huge spoiler.
Is it?
Once you get later in the game, yeah. Oh, I'm serious.
Well, okay.
Well, most people will get that one.
Jonathan Blow didn't make the game.
By saying it's a huge spoiler, people are going to go back to it now to double check.
No,
what
I'm
they missed.
It's not. Son of a bitch. I was like, it's the first hour of the game. It can't be that bad, right?
That's the thing about The Witness. You think something doesn't matter, and then bam,
then it does.
Matters.
All right, we're here.
Like that small bump I found.
You
What?
should go to a doctor.
Jesus Christ Almighty! Unbelievable. We're going to talk about The Witness in a second. First of all, though, not a little bit of video. We're gonna like break. We're going to split up each section by talking about some dumbass video game release bullshit that happened before each one. A little bit of news here. Scott Cawthon, who of course is the guy who made Five Nights at Freddy's, a franchise that had not one but 2 releases last year and 2 the previous year as well. He's pulled the latest game, Five Nights at Freddy's World.
Which you called Five Nights at Freddy's Party in the beginning. Which
Did I really?
I thought it was cute.
That's a way better name. Do that. Change it with
like a Mario
Change
Party
that as well,
Five
Scott.
Nights.
Yeah.
Just like everybody doing this on their joystick.
You're terrible.
You never did that?
Wax on, wax off. He's pulled it amid concerns over quality about how much work was left to do to finish the game. Peter Brown, you had a freelance reviewer working on this game.
Feverishly.
You didn't know it was cancelled until you saw it on today's running order. What is your take on this game getting pulled?
So I think like a month ago, the developer said, "Hey, I'm going to release this game in 2 months." 4 weeks go by, and he's like, "I lied, it's out now." And people reacted negatively because in the past he had shown the game with sort of like a fully realized like world map.
Yeah.
But then there were things missing from the main game, like you'd get special abilities to use in battle. You had no idea what they did, just what they were called. And so a lot of things like that were missing. And I think this is a guy who has found success making games that are really simple. He kind of just churns them out. Not to belittle the work that goes into these, because it's a lot of work still, but at the same time, he has, I don't even know if it's the audacity, the naivety to sort of...
gumption.
The gumption. He's a bit naive to think that he can just release this game and survive on the popularity of the series and thinking that people won't notice. But I do give him credit for, 1, acknowledging that he made a mistake, 2, acknowledging the game needs work, 3, asking Valve to give people refunds.
Yeah. Regardless of how much time they'd spent as well.
Exactly. Even if they liked it, he said request a refund. And he said he'll give it away for free down the road.
Yeah.
I'm super skeptical if he's even going to go back and put all the work into this thing or just call it a wash.
It's so strange because this game also had like 87% on Steam.
But that speaks to the audience behind this who just eats up everything this guy puts out.
But it kind of seems like it's a joke, though. Like, it seems like an in-joke. It seems like these
games... You
games...
just don't get it, man.
Right? Like, because, I know... Look, Mary plays these games a bunch in the office, right? She probably plays them more than anyone else does on a bunch of live streams. And, like, you can see that there is... It's an interesting sort of universe if you're into that. If you're... I can see it being
like
if you're younger.
There's like 4 versions of most of the main cast.
Right.
Because he ran out of ideas and just decided, like, I'll just make him look like a ghost.
But if he's pitching these games at like what it seems to be is like a younger audience, right? Like teenagers and younger teenagers who like a little bit of a scare.
And mid 30-year-old people who stream games.
I guess,
YouTube.
yeah, exactly. What, mid 30s?
Not Mary, but
right. Yeah, but folks like that.
I don't know. I'm out of touch.
But it seems like okay, he's like putting these games out one by one. This game almost seemed like a kind of an in joke where like, hey, fuck it, I'm gonna make an RPG out of this whole series as well. But it's such a bizarre, like it feels like this is just an internet joke that I'm not in on.
Maybe this is Frog Fractions too.
Exactly, right? So okay, exactly. That's an internet joke I can get behind. It's so strange. I guess the fact that he's going to release it apparently for free on Game Jolt after the fact is something that's cool for at least fans of the series. He says, I'm still going to work on Five Nights at Freddy World and polish it up. I'm busy creating a fully 3D overworld for the game. When I'm ready to update the game, I'll replace the demo currently on Game Jolt with the full game. From this point forward, the game will always be free. I appreciate your support and encourage you to all to refund your Steam game, even if you enjoyed the game, and download the new version when it comes available on Game Jolt. I don't know. I guess I probably got nothing else to say about it. Are we going to have a review of the game, actually? That's what I want to ask.
No, we can't publish a review right now because you can't buy it, so there's no point.
But what when it comes out free on Game Jolt? Because we don't really review free games.
We don't review free games.
Yeah. What about Rocket League was free?
We can write a feature about it. We can talk about, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's impossible to review a game that doesn't cost anything, or that we only review games to inform purchasing decisions. But when a game is free, the only thing you're really risking by trying it out is a little bit of time.
Right.
So
And your time is worth nothing to us. Peter's got nothing.
I don't know. What do you want me to say?
I don't know.
We all waste time doing inane bullshit all the time anyway.
That's
Who cares
true.
if you waste an hour on a bad game? I don't.
There you go. I spent an hour playing a really good game this morning. Can you
Me
guess
too.
what it is?
Tetris?
Not dissimilar, apparently. Okay, we have to talk about this game, right? We're not going to have any spoilers.
No,
We're
we
not
won't
gonna,
have spoilers.
It's kind of impossible. Well, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I had to. That's how the whole process of trying to figure out how to like explain certain things in the review and talk about them was weird.
Mine, yeah, was that a struggle?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too bad. It was just there was like a list of things we weren't supposed to talk about, which I looked through them. I was like, oh, those all make sense. Those are big revelations I came to on my own. But then I was like, how do I explain why certain puzzles? How do I explain how this game is good without talking about specific things that it does well? It was all like overarching things because there's so many great overarching things that Witness does. There are also small details it does really well too.
All right, let's get into it. Jonathan Blow, creator of 2008's breakthrough indie hit Braid, was also featured in Indie Game the Movie. Great movie. You guys seen it?
Yeah,
it's pretty
It's a
good.
wonderful documentary.
Yeah, he's one of. He is 1/3 of the people involved in that, some of which have gone on to release a second game, some of which haven't. But he's finally released his new game. It took a couple of years. It's out. It's called The Witness. It's out today. And as a massive fan of John's work, I was very interested to play it. I played a little bit this morning and really enjoyed it. Mike, you enjoyed it quite a lot. 9 out of 10 on GameSpot.com. For folks who don't know what The Witness is or have only seen screenshots or think, oh, who cares? It's a puzzle game. What is it about The Witness that garnered a 9 out of 10 score? What makes it so interesting?
Yeah, so you're on this weird, mysterious kind of island, and it's just composed of these like a lot of biomes from Earth. There's like this autumnal forest, there's like a snowy mountain, there's a desert, and you don't know why you're there. You don't know what the purpose of the island is, but it's really weird. The first thing you see is this panel, and you click your cursor on it, drag this glowing line through like a line to the end, and press X, and it opens. You go through, and it's a little more complicated than that. I mean, it's just a line that turns, so it's a right angle. And throughout the game, you're going through these more increasingly, they become mazes, and you're just on these panels, and you're going through these increasingly complex mazes. And
like mazes you play as a child, that would be in like your activity book, right? Where you like start from one point, and how do you get to the middle? But they just sort of keep evolving.
Yeah, and it's an open island, so you can go wherever you want right away. So if you go right toward this village in the middle, and you see these really complicated puzzles, you'll have no idea what the fuck to do at all. I mean, theoretically, there's probably like a 1 in 10,000 chance you can get lucky and do the right path, but odds are that won't happen. But if you go to certain other areas, it's a really one of the better uses of open world structure I can think of in like recent memory, because it's a really hard game. It's challenging. You can solve any of these puzzles from the get go. It's just you're pretty much going around the island and acquiring the knowledge necessary. Like there's no hidden keys. Like it sounds really trite and annoying and cliche, but like the knowledge is the key. Like you have to learn how to do certain things in order to progress. And there's certain symbols in the mazes, and it's crazy how well the game keeps you invested in learning the new rules, because it seems boring at first. Like a lot of people are saying,
that's the
how
thing.
is this
Like,
fun?
Exactly. Like we're looking at this gameplay. You don't have like the sort of, the people watching don't know anything about what any of this stuff means. Like we're just drawing around boxes and stuff like that. I was playing this morning. I think the easiest sort of thing to combine it to is I remember playing Braid, and like you'd see video of like the later levels in Braid and be like, what the hell is going on? Like he's moving, and then the thing is moving, and then he picks up the key with his shadow version, and and it just looks crazy. But if there's one thing Jonathan Blow really achieved with that game, is that he managed to communicate these incredibly complex mechanics really well. And in the first like whatever hour and a half I played of this game, there are puzzles that I had seen in those trailers and that I got stuck at while I was playing, that now they make complete sense. And in a weird way, they sort of they're sort of like, they're familiar in a strange way, where like they feel like, when you're walking in the street and you're like trying not to step on the cracks, or when you're maybe driving down the road and you're sort of I used to do this thing where I'd squeeze my toes when cars came down against me in the traffic. I'd squeeze my toes when there was a car passing, and then I'd release my toes. Like these things that they feel like subconscious games that we always play. Like in a weird way, these games are those, and they're so satisfying when you solve them.
Yeah, I used to have like really bad manifestations of OCD when I was younger, and light switches and certain patterns I would do. I was like clicking my tongue when I was just sitting there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these things. I'm sure there's a ton of theories that people are going to dig into, like what does this symbol represent? Because you could talk about any story present in the game later without spoiling it. But yeah, there's like you'll immediately learn. The one he showed in a lot of his demos at like E3 or GDC, those surprise demos he did. You see these white and black blocks, and it'll start off. I guess it's the equivalent of a tutorial. You'll do the first panel. It's really simple. Just one line directly through the black and white box. The next one, there's 2 white boxes and 1 black, and you kind of figure out half the game, and the fun of the game is figuring out what it's telling you.
Yeah.
And the easy part is like applying those skills. It's really just figuring out what it's telling you, because like you talk to other people and you're like, what does this symbol mean? I still can't figure it out. Like there's a flux capacitor symbol that shows up later,
Right.
and that's my favorite one. Again, I won't go into it, but I was talking to Brad at Giant Bomb. And
Oh my
he
God,
came
what's
and-
going on over here?
Yeah, we've been talking about certain like how to do certain puzzles, and then it's crazy how we're like, did you figure this one out yet, or did you kind of figure out what that meant or what that was telling you? It's really fun talking to other people. And I walked by your screen today,
Yeah.
and you were on one, and it's funny because looking back, you don't really remember the specific path.
Right.
You really have to be in the moment and know what the last puzzle you did was.
And I was I did not know what to do in that puzzle at all when you were over near me. And then like I just got it.
Yeah.
Like I just looked at the space. There's also an element of there's exposition happening in the world without getting into details that that talks about things like, metaphysics and science and faith and stuff. And I came across one of those. I just happened to and then it was this I heard basically some stuff about faith and about God and how God both is invisible and not visible depending on how you're thinking about it, and that made me solve the puzzle.
Yeah.
Like what?
It sounds to hear you say that, and like a lot of when you're actually listening to them, they sound really preachy, and I think the initial thing is to say,
Indie devs, man.
Yeah, like Jonathan Blow doing this thing again, but it's great how the game, it doesn't hold your hand at all. It communicates everything really subtly, and it trusts that you are patient and intelligent, and you're willing to try to read into everything possible, because there are clues everywhere. There are clues in the island. There are clues in the way it tells its story. There are clues in the way certain puzzles progress, and it's that was one of my favorite things, is how it communicates so much but actually tells you very little directly.
I want to kind of ask a couple of questions that are going to be a little bit more boring and mechanical.
Okay.
But I feel like there's a lot of people, I was sort of on Twitter this morning, it feels like a lot of people who are like not sure if they want to buy this because it's a puzzle game, and probably because of the price tag as well. It's a $40 game. I still feel like people are a little bit reticent to jump in on something like this when it's so abstract. So just get some stuff out of the way. How hard is this game? Did it feel safe hard? Like, were you stuck on a puzzle for really long and did it kill you, or was the payoff worth it? Like, what's the difficulty like in The Witness?
It's very, very, very challenging. But that is, this might turn some people off, but that is part of the charm. Not charm, that's part of the actual overall experience, because it's very much a game you could come back to the next day and you'll see something that you got stuck up on for like 60 minutes, or some other people I talked to played it, kept coming back to the same puzzle throughout their whole playthrough and couldn't figure it out. And I had that same one. It was one of the earlier ones I couldn't figure out. It was like the last in the sequence of a new rule set you had to learn.
Right.
And I could not figure it out forever. And then I kept talking to someone who'd figured it out. I was like, do not tell me, but it's killing me. And I progressed a lot through the rest of the game, and that was the one thing I needed to do this other big thing. I was like, I'm going to have to ask somebody. But then I was like, no, you know what? And then I saw one little thing. I was like, are you kidding me? This last 20 hours, that's what I was missing. And it sounds like it's frustrating. It does get frustrating a lot. It's a mentally exhausting game. There's no doubt about that at all. For me, it was. But if you stick through it and really just trust that you can go across the island and use that open world structure to drop one thing, go over to the desert if you can't figure things out on the beach. There will be something in the desert or in the forest or in the castle that
that's like
tips you off.
That's like a motivational poster. Like, go off to the desert if you can't figure out the beach.
Just smoke this peyote. No, I'm not encouraging smoking peyote.
But that's what the moment felt like as well for me. Is that what it felt? Because I played it for a short amount of time, but it felt very much like, dude, I want to be playing this in a dark room on my own for like 6. Like it felt like it was enveloping me in this experience. Is that what? Did it feel like that throughout the game?
I was talking to other people that played it. It's one of those games. It's been a long time since I hate using like hyperbole in any sense when I'm talking about like how much I think about a game, because I think it can become kind of cliche to say I thought about this game for weeks after I finished it.
Yeah.
That's cool if a game can do that, but I rarely have said that and meant it.
Did you have witness streams?
No, but like you'll start. It's just one of those things. Like if you're writing something long, or if you're like a musician and you're trying to write, like back when I was into like you're writing a song or something, and it's kind of, even when you're not doing it, you're thinking about it. Like this game is one of those things where I would still think about how I could use this symbol in conjunction with this, even when I didn't want to think about it. It wasn't like I need to get back to the game. It was more just like it kind of just challenges how you think when you step back into it, because it is very, very challenging. And I love difficult games. I love like Miyazaki's games. I loved like the old school. I still play the old school Mega Man sometimes. Not that those are hard in the same sense, but this is really, really one of the more rewarding games I've ever like beaten. And beating it is a weird term. I mentioned this in the review because there are a lot of different ways it can kind of unfold. And he said that you can spend 90 hours playing this game, which that's another cool thing. You play for about 5 hours and you're like, I don't see how this could last 90 hours. And then you find this one layer of the game itself structurally. And you're like, oh my God, that's another 20 hours right there. And then you're like, you get farther and then you're like, 90 though? And then you see one more thing, you're like, oh my God, that I had no idea that happened. It keeps changing how you see the game as a whole, which is a really cool thing. So every time you see something small, you're like, that's probably a huge deal that I don't even want to try to wrap my brain around right now, because I'm still trying to figure out this whole thing, which somehow connects to this. But yeah, it's just the more you have these revelations on so many different levels as you're playing through it, and it's a really cool experience as a whole, but also in its detail.
Did you ever play Fez?
Yeah, really. Yeah, and that's actually something else that I had been telling a few people. I was like, don't think of it as Braid. Think of it more as a Fez.
Right.
Not like, because Fez, you're like, it has its own language you translate if you really want to get into it. I guess this whole game is doing that, but I think this does a better job of communicating those. Fez, some of those things were really opaque.
It seems like I feel like in 2016 all of Fez hasn't been uncovered yet. It seems like one of those things that you keep hearing every couple of months. Oh, we just figured out this other thing.
Yeah.
Just as a sidebar, we don't talk about Fez enough. I think that game is brilliant.
Yeah.
Even if Phil Fish maybe should keep his mouth shut
Yeah.
for his own good, I don't mind him. But man, that game was special. And I get the same thing that you're telling me from The Witness. And
Yeah.
it's hard for me to sit here. You were asking me earlier, am I going to play? And I was like, maybe I'm going to find the time. It's like I have to. Like,
Right.
Oh yeah, it's a very, I think it's an important game for a few reasons, which you can get into in another conversation. But yeah, it's very much like Fez in that the $40 price tag is completely like, spend $40 in this game. It's very well worth it. I think it's worth more than $40, but
what kind of DLC are we looking at?
Did you see the pre-order bonus?
Yeah,
he said?
a warm fuzzy feeling.
A warm fuzzy
Yeah.
feeling.
I thought that
The
was
game
great.
also, am I wrong? I looked at the Steam achievements and it has one. Or no, it has one and it has one hidden one. It says one is complete the game and the second one is something else that you won't know unless you unlock it.
No, there is
more?
With the PS4, the debugging that we're playing with.
I was playing on PC.
There are certain trophies for accomplishing, because like again, the game, you start to realize what your overarching objectives are,
Right.
and you get a trophy for each of those. At least in the version we
nice.
have. Yeah.
I have to look into that because I wonder if Steam doesn't force
He might have changed it since it released fully, because again, we had like a
release
retail build. Yeah,
or maybe
so it
Sony
might be
forces
different.
people. I don't know. I'll have to look into that.
Oh,
got a couple of questions here. Yes, Mr. Vic says, can you ask Mike how hard that one puzzle was that supposedly only 1% of players can pass?
So here's the thing. I don't know which one he's talking about,
Okay.
because there are 3. Well, okay,
Hard.
so I think there are something like 650 or 700 total puzzles.
Right.
When I beat the game, I got the soft ending, as I called it. I solved about 400.
Wow.
So there are a bunch that I haven't solved. The one that I think he's talking about, it's not even that it looks hard when you first look at it, but the more you try it, the more you realize how many like different permutations are preventing you from solving it. And there are certain rules to it that I still don't exactly know. And there's this one series of puzzles that I love watching people, or the 2 people I've watched after I figured it out. But it makes you think about every single other puzzle on the island differently.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's like I was watching you today, and if he knows this thing, these would be so easy right now. But it's if it's the puzzle I think it is, I don't see myself ever finishing it.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
All right. Reviews up on GameSpot.com right now. 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
DS Park HD makes a good point. Can't wait to see Soldier Boy's review.
Oh man, that's gonna be great.
Somebody. Your eyes rolled back so far they might have come out of your arse there. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing more of The Witness. Looking forward to having people talk about it as well.
Yeah.
Also,
definitely.
it doesn't seem like the type of game. Is it last point? Is this the type of game that somebody could spoil by saying a sentence? Because it seems like so much of the spoilers are very abstract. So should people be worried about being in comments or?
No. So when I say there's a story, it's just the themes it's telling. There's not, from what I've seen, there's not like a narrative payoff.
Right.
So no, I couldn't spoil it. I could spoil like how to do certain puzzles, but even then it wouldn't really affect it. Cause
you don't like open a door and then the Kaiser Soze is there.
Yeah. This just becomes frog fractions.
Too,
Clues.
exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Mike Mahardy. Thank you so much for coming in, telling
Thanks
us
for
all
having
about The Witness. Let us know if you excited. Are you excited for The Witness? Does the $40 play a part in your purchasing decision? Do you like hard games, hard puzzle games? Let us know in the comment box below. All right, gentlemen, that's a lobby this week. We've only got one more week left in this spot. We're going to be heading over to the studio pretty quickly after that. We just need a couple of days to light it and get it all set up. I know Mr. Bauman here is going to be off shooting the new intro with Girk tomorrow. We'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek as to what the studio is going to look like next week. The builders are in this weekend, so that should be pretty fun. Before we go, though, gentlemen, I'm a dictator, and I say what we're going to talk every week, and it's very mean. Me and a group of shadow council of other folks. Is there anything you guys have been playing over the weekend, or something that you kind of want to highlight? Peter, last time we had you in, you'd watched a bunch of anime.
Yeah.
You played any games this weekend?
This last weekend I played Gravity Rush Remastered on
cool.
PS4, and it was a game that I played a little bit of on Vita, but I kind of walked away from just because it didn't grab me. But oh man, this game is actually really fucking cool. Manipulating gravity, like you're not flying, you're falling. Like doing all that is really fun, and the concept is great. And on the PS4, it looks really good. And the larger format helps you just get into that world and feel that sense of awe.
I saw Andy cutting the video review. It looks gorgeous.
It looks really good. It's a shame because the combat is like very rote. The missions are a bit bland, but it's got some really good characters, a setting that I like, and just like I hate to say unique ever, but a pretty unique way of controlling a character. And I think if you didn't play this game on the Vita, or if you don't own a Vita, like you should get it on PS4. It's so different that I think everyone should at least try it.
Yeah, review on the side?
Yeah, 7 out of 10.
Excellent.
It's a good game with problems, and there's a sequel coming this year.
Awesome. Mike, what about yourself? What have you been playing? Or we've talked to you probably about all the games you have been playing.
I got back into Diablo 3 over the weekend with a new
wow.
patch.
Okay.
Yeah, I was playing on console because I have a few friends that just got it on console because I've been playing on PC most of the time. And I'm just taking a look at Rise of the Tomb Raider on PC, which releases Thursday. Our review will also. We're just gonna update our Xbox One review with how PC is performing.
Yeah, should
And
have
then,
graphics comparison as well.
Yeah, and then XCOM 2
Oh,
reviewing as well.
yeah.
That'll go up Monday the 1st.
Can we talk a little bit about XCOM 2? Because
I think.
I'm a big XCOM fan. You're a big XCOM fan.
Yeah.
Andy's a big XCOM fan.
Yeah.
I'll
We've
just
been
walk out. That's
we've been covering the game on GameSpot for like 6 months. Me and Andy did a series with Jake Solomon where we went and interviewed him about the game. You've done previews and stuff. And I just, for a second, because we don't talk about this stuff because it's sort of inside baseball, but the interesting thing about XCOM 2 is that stuff isn't trafficking. People aren't keeping an eye on XCOM 2. So I'm wondering, do you think people just feel that they know what XCOM 2 is, that XCOM fans trust that Fair Access are going to make a good game? Or do you think that people aren't interested in XCOM 2? Because as somebody, like, we're passionate about these games, and we make something about it, and we're excited about the game. We want people to like get excited with us. But like, we could have talked about XCOM again this weekend, but we didn't because it was like, oh, we've done all those features, and nobody really cares about it, right?
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think people are apathetic, or do you think people just know, hey, it's Fair Access, they got it?
Yeah, it seems like one of those formulas where you look at Enemy Unknown and Enemy Within, which was a good expansion, but you think, what more can they do with that? And I think maybe that might be the case, which, with the prequel, the preview we did, was like, this is a sequel. It's not an expansion. It's very much doing new things structurally and just in the detail. But also, I think people probably, like, I don't remember the last time Fair Access released a bad game. Like, again, this isn't me saying my opinion about XCOM 2, but...
don't you dare review the game on this show.
I'll give it a score right here. No, just kidding. I haven't played enough of it.
When is the review out, actually?
Monday morning, the 1st.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
Because it releases, the next day? 2nd?
Yeah.
I think it might just be one of those things that it's been out of the spotlight for a while, and it's not a game that gets as much, like, hype or anything, or, like, multi-million-dollar marketing campaigns, so maybe that's why it's not in the general public's consciousness right now, but we'll see what other outlets think come Monday.
Yeah,
And
it's interesting because I think a lot of people think it's very similar, but from playing it, it's like they're doing some really cool stuff with it.
This isn't
so
an
different,
expansion,
so
it's a sequel. Yeah.
Like, I mean, the fundamentals are the same, but
Right.
it's funny. Some of the folks in the chat, ESTron23, we know, dude, and we're buying. Master the Hero says, I can't effing wait for XCOM 2. Most people seem pretty hyped about XCOM 2.
Yeah.
And a couple of folks, sort of wondering if you'll throw out the score right now, so we should probably wrap it up. You know what I played over the weekend? Apart from a lot of Rocket League, because we're doing our Rocket League brackets, our internal tournament. If you want to watch any of the highlights for that, there's like 4 days, I think,
Tomorrow
of
afternoon.
streaming.
It's
We
my
got more
next-
tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow's my next matchup.
Who
in the
are you
losers bracket.
playing?
It's me and Julio against Edmund Tran.
It's
and
not
our
you, it's not you and Julio.
Me and Marco. Sorry,
I'm with Julio.
I was playing that. You're with
Don't
Julio.
take my teammate.
Damn it. It's me and Marco.
Team Pac-Man.
Me and Marco are playing Edmund Tran in Australia,
Oh, okay.
and
Oh,
one of
what
his friends, I believe.
what time did you go for?
6 o'clock Pacific.
So that's like morning time
Yeah.
there.
It's like
9
it's their
a.m., right?
lunch break there, according to Edmund.
Oh, really?
I don't understand time
Fucking
zones.
who knows? Who knows where they are?
Yeah.
Thanks for why all UK folks who are watching. It's just gone 11 o'clock, so appreciate you tuned in. All Ireland as well. God, I almost did that thing where I only called out the UK and not Ireland. You know what I played over the weekend though that was fun? Octodad.
Oh, nice.
I'd never played it.
Yeah, I tried. I couldn't.
Yeah?
Yeah, I found the humor and like the ridiculousness good, but
Yeah, the writing was actually really good,
Yeah.
like surprisingly good. I think the reason I enjoyed it is because I played it with my girlfriend and we did the whole I was controlling the left
Yeah.
side, she was controlling the right, and it's like so fucking stupid. So like
you want to talk
when-
about co-op? That's a good fucking.
That's a
co-op
great
game.
co-op game. It's pretty short that we ran through it and like we squirmed through it.
There's not like 8-player co-op, is there?
There's 5. There's 4 at
No,
least.
that's a missed.
There is. There's one with each tentacle. I think it's 4.
Because what better use of 8-player co-op?
Yeah.
What if they're all dads? Like their kids are all sleeping, they're having a guys night. Let's play Octodad.
Oh, just loads
One
of
of them
different.
just starts taking his. No, never mind.
Whoa.
Okay, sorry.
Whoa. Why do you always got to bring it to a dark place? Even Andy's shaking his head.
No.
Ban this
That'd be a
sick
cool
filth.
use of 8-player co-op.
It's
and,
a pretty good
and
game.
dads.
And dads. It's a
Great
pretty
use of
good.
dads.
It's fun. It was relatively cheap, I feel like. I don't think it cost like $14 or something. And it was good. It was only about 3 hours long. There was a couple of other. Apparently, I think there's like Steam Workshop support or something. I enjoyed that.
It looks
was
like
pretty cool.
Gang Beast at a glance, like the draw of like.
I can't
everything
wait to
everywhere.
see the new. So new Gang Beast came in, and people are freaking out because
Yeah.
I think they upgraded it to the latest version of Unity, and it sort of tweaked the fundamentals a little bit.
Why aren't we playing Gang Beast right now?
I know. We have a new
Yeah.
Friday show we're going to be doing actually once the set's built, and Cynthia was saying we should probably play some hot Gang Beasts on that. All right, I think that's it. Last thing, actually, do you guys have what's going up on the website between now and the end of the week? Any big stuff that's not under embargo? XCOM review Monday, it sounds like.
Yeah, Monday morning.
We have an episode of The Point
We'll
on
update.
Friday.
I could run down a list of reviews and give you quick little snippets of what these games are.
Sure.
Okay, Hard West is sort of like a old school XCOM strategy title set in like a fantastical dark gothic version of the Old West.
Mm.
Got a review for that going up. Mean Greens is a multiplayer shooter where you play as army men. Kind of, we've seen that before. Tharsis is a space simulation game where you try to survive on a spaceship, but everything you do is handled by random number generation. Therefore, it can be really unfair at times, but also really fun when you succeed. Also, I wish I could do this like faster. You know, like
This is
really-
great.
Yeah, this is good.
This is actually really impressive.
Devilian, which is the game
Nice.
that Kevin Van Ord, the man who handed I don't want to say the crown, but the shoes, the boot, the underwear,
The crown. I was the
don't
burden
the burden.
of being reviews editor
There you go.
to you. Yeah.
He worked on that game a little bit. It's a MMO from Korea, and that will be on the site soon. We also are going to have a review for Super Mario Paper Jam. I know there's more.
XCOM 2 Monday.
XCOM 2 Monday.
Any this week?
Rise
We have the witness today.
Pretty much all these I'm saying are this week.
Okay.
This War of Mine, the little ones. Which
Oh
is
yes.
yeah.
What is that? This War of Mine I liked, but what's the little ones? Is it now children?
It introduces children. And I think there are a
Okay.
couple missions. I mean, essentially, it introduces an element where it's like, hey, maybe in the past, version of the game, you were an adult and you could like take care of your shit. You got a kid who doesn't know what the hell is going on, and they
Right.
can't take care of their shit.
Okay.
Cool. There's some other games. Whatever.
Rise of the Tomb Raider PC
Yeah.
update.
Oh yeah, of
Just-
course, that's coming now.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Don't brush me off just because.
I mean, that hair
I know
technology
what
might be
it
good
is.
enough to get it a couple more. What did I get? I got 9 out of 10 on
Yeah, who gave that a 9
What's
out of
that?
10?
Alexa.
No, I gave it a
No.
9 out of 10.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
All right.
That was
Who's
my
reviewing
first-
this one?
That was my first 9.
Are you reviewing this one?
It's just an update, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Alexa was playing this morning with Mary, so if you want to
They were,
catch
yeah,
that,
they were doing the DLC.
go do it. They did the DLC. Apparently, Mary breezed through it, completed it in like an hour and a half or something. So, fair play. That's not the sound of a breeze. That's a howl.
The sound of the Baba Yaga.
Of the what?
The Baba Yaga. That's what the DLC is about.
The Baba
The witch.
Yaga?
That's the
very
Bob
good.
Yaga sound.
Guys just stealing Irish mythology now. It's a banshee, my friend.
Yeah, it's a.
Yeah.
Oh, I could make a banshee noise if you want me to.
Do it.
Right in your ears.
Do it.
You hear
All
that?
right, can't top that. Thanks so much to everyone for watching the show on GameSpot.com and twitch.tv/GameSpot. We've got one more week left in here. Also, a lot of people asking us for a podcast version. Yes, we will have a podcast version of this show. Fingers crossed for the launch of it on February 9th back in the studio. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know what you think of the show, of course, in the comments below. And feel free to tweet at Daniel Dwyer. We'll be back next week on the lobby, same time, Tuesday, 2 p.m. Pacific. See you then.